My wife explained everything she'd been hiding. I said nothing and let her talk. While she prepared for an argument, I made one quiet decision that night, a choice that slowly unraveled the control she thought she still had. I need to tell you something, and I need you to just listen without interrupting. Those were the words my wife said to me on a Tuesday night, standing in our kitchen with her arms crossed, her voice steady, but her eyes betraying something I couldn't quite place. Fear, maybe, or guilt. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. I'm 34, been married for 7 years, and I thought I knew every expression that could cross her face. I was wrong. Okay, I said, setting down the glass of water I just poured. I've been keeping something from you, she continued, her fingers gripping her elbows tighter. For about 6 months now. 6 months. Half a year of my life, and I'd been living in some kind of partial truth. I leaned back against the counter and waited. She'd asked me not to interrupt, so I wouldn't. But what she didn't know was that I'd already made a decision in that exact moment, before she'd even said another word. I just didn't tell her yet. I've been meeting someone, she said, and the words hung in the air like smoke. Not what you're thinking, though. Not like that. I kept my face neutral, my hands relaxed at my sides. It's been professional, mostly. He's someone I work with on the Henderson project. We've had to meet outside the office because of confidentiality issues with the client. She paused, watching for my reaction. I gave her nothing. But I know how it looks, she continued, her voice picking up speed. I know I should have told you. I know the late meetings, the phone calls, the times I said I was working late. I know it all looks bad. I nodded slowly. Not in agreement, just acknowledgement that she was speaking. His name is Derek, she said. He's 42, married, has 3 kids. This isn't some affair, I swear to you. But we got close. Closer than I intended. And there were a few times when the conversations got personal, when we talked about things I should have only talked about with you. The kitchen felt smaller suddenly. Our refrigerator hummed in the background, the sound amplified by the silence between us. I'm telling you this now because someone at work saw us having coffee last week, and I know they're going to say something, she said. I wanted you to hear it from me first. There it was. The real reason for the confession. Not guilt. Not conscience. Self-preservation. Are you going to say anything? She asked, her voice cracking slightly. I took a breath. I'm listening like you asked, I said quietly. Is there more? Her shoulders sagged a little, like she'd been holding tension waiting for an explosion that hadn't come. There's more context, she said. Things have been hard with us lately. You know that. The way you've been distant, focused on your own projects, coming home late yourself. I felt like I was invisible. And there it was, the pivot. The way she was already building her defense, laying the groundwork for shared blame. Derek listened, she continued. He asked about my day. He noticed when I was stressed. He made me feel seen. I watched her carefully as she spoke, looking for the tells I'd learned over 7 years. The way her left eye twitched slightly when she was stretching the truth. The way she touched her neck when she was nervous about what she was about to say. Both were happening now. Nothing physical happened, she said firmly. I need you to believe that. But emotionally, I let lines blur that shouldn't have blurred. And I'm sorry. I pushed off from the counter and walked past her toward the living room. Where are you going? She asked, following me. I'm still listening, I said, sitting down on the couch. I just want to be comfortable if we're doing this. She sat on the chair across from me, not next to me on the couch where she normally would have sat. That choice told me more than her words had. I ended it, she said. 2 weeks ago, I told Derek we needed to maintain strictly professional boundaries, that I'd been unfair to both of us by letting things get complicated. How did he take that? I asked. It was the first real question I'd posed. She blinked, seemingly surprised I was engaging. He understood, she said. He felt the same way, actually. Said his wife had been asking questions too. I nodded again, filing that information away. What else? I asked. What do you mean? You said you needed to tell me something. You've told me about Derek. Is there anything else? She hesitated, and I saw her calculate something behind her eyes. There were some gifts, she said finally. Small things. Coffee. Once he brought me lunch when I'd forgotten mine. And I bought him a book for his birthday because he'd mentioned wanting to read it. When was his birthday? I asked. October 15th. 3 months ago. Did you tell me you were buying a book for someone at work? I asked. No, she admitted. Because I knew how it would sound. I leaned back into the couch cushions, processing. The facts were laid out now, at least her version of them. A months-long emotional connection with a coworker, kept secret, gifts exchanged, late meetings, personal conversations. All the hallmarks of something that crossed lines, even if those lines never extended into the physical. "I need you to say something," she said, her voice pleading now. "I need to know what you're thinking." "I'm thinking about what you've told me," I said calmly. "I'm thinking about 6 months of secrecy. I'm thinking about how you only told me because you got caught, not because you wanted to." Her face flushed. "That's not fair," she said. "I told you before anyone else could." "By a few days, maybe," I replied. "And only because you had no other choice." She stood up abruptly, pacing toward the window. "I knew you'd do this," she said. "I knew you'd twist it into something it wasn't. I came to you honestly. I told you everything, and you're sitting there judging me like you're perfect." I didn't raise my voice. "I haven't twisted anything," I said. "I've asked questions and pointed out facts. If you don't like how it sounds, that's not about my judgment. It's about your choices." "My choices," she repeated bitterly. "What about your choices? What about the nights you've been locked in your office working on that app? What about the times I've tried to talk to you and you've brushed me off because you were in the middle of something? Did I keep any of that secret?" I asked. "Did I hide who I was working with or where I was going?" She turned away from the window to face me. "That's not the same," she said. "You're right," I agreed. "It's not." The fight seemed to drain out of her then, and she sank back into the chair. "I don't know what you want me to say," she said quietly. "I've apologized. I've explained. I've ended it. What more can I do?" I stood up and walked toward the hallway. "I need some time," I said. "Time for what?" she asked, alarm creeping into her voice. "To think," I said. "To process this." "You're not leaving, are you?" she asked, standing quickly. "I'm going to the guest room," I said. "I'll sleep there tonight." "Please don't do this," she said, following me. "We can talk more. We can work through this." I stopped at the hallway entrance and turned to look at her. "We will talk more," I said. "But not tonight. Tonight, you've said what you needed to say, and now I need space." Her eyes were wet now, tears threatening to spill. "I love you," she said. "I know I messed up, but I love you." I didn't respond to that. I just walked down the hall, entered the guest room, and closed the door quietly behind me. The room was small, minimally furnished. We usually kept it ready for the occasional family visit that never seemed to materialize. I sat on the edge of the bed and pulled out my phone. There was something I needed to check, something that had been nagging at me during her confession. I opened our shared phone account and pulled up her call logs from the past 6 months. I'd never done this before, never felt the need to. But trust, once questioned, demands answers. The number appeared frequently, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, often late in the evening. Calls ranging from 5 minutes to over an hour. I cross-referenced the dates with my own memory. October 15th, Derek's birthday. She'd talked to him for 43 minutes that night after I'd gone to bed. I remembered because I'd woken up thirsty and heard her voice from the living room, soft and intimate in a way that hadn't registered as wrong at the time. I scrolled further. Valentine's Day. A 15-minute call at 11 p.m. We'd had dinner together that night, exchanged cards, gone to bed early because we both had work the next day. Apparently, she'd had one more conversation to squeeze in. My jaw tightened, but I kept my breathing steady. This was information, not ammunition. Not yet. I set the phone aside and lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. The decision I'd made in the kitchen earlier was solidifying now, taking shape. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to fight for someone who'd already checked out emotionally and only came back because she'd been forced to. But I also wasn't going to make it easy for her. The next morning, I woke early and made coffee. She was already up, sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open, but clearly not working. "Morning," I said neutrally. "Morning," she replied, watching me carefully. "Did you sleep?" "Some," I said, pouring my coffee. "You?" "Not really," she admitted. I sat down across from her with my mug. "I have some questions," I said. She closed her laptop. "Okay. The phone calls," I said. "How many would you estimate you've had with Derek over the past 6 months?" She paled slightly. "I don't know. A fair amount." "What? Ballpark?" I pressed. 20? 50? 100? "I don't count them," she said defensively. "Why does the number matter?" "Because frequency indicates priority," I said calmly. "And I'm trying to understand where I fell on your priority list during that time." She looked down at her hands. "That's not fair," she said again. It was becoming her favorite phrase. "You talk to your business partner regularly too." "My business partner knows about you," I said. "You've met him. We've had dinner with him and his wife." There's no secrecy there. She had no response to that. The book you bought, Derek, I continued. What was it? What does it matter? She asked. Humor me. She sighed. It was a biography. About a tech entrepreneur he admired. How much did it cost? I don't remember exactly. $40 maybe. I nodded slowly. Did you wrap it? Why are you asking me this? Did you? I repeated. Yes, she said quietly. I wrapped it. I took a sip of my coffee. So you went to a bookstore, selected a book you knew he'd love because you'd been paying attention to his interests, spent $40, took it home, wrapped it carefully, and gave it to him. And at no point did you think, maybe this is crossing a line? Her face crumbled. I thought it was a nice gesture, she said. Between friends. We're friends, I said. You and me. We're supposed to be more than friends, actually. When's the last time you wrapped a gift for me that wasn't Christmas or my birthday? She opened her mouth, then closed it. I can't remember either, I said. But Derek got a wrapped book in October just because he mentioned wanting to read it. You're making this about something it wasn't, she said, her voice rising. I'm making it about exactly what it was, I replied evenly. An emotional affair. You can call it friendship, you can say nothing physical happened, but you invested time and energy and emotion into someone else while your marriage was sitting right here, available. You weren't available, she shot back. You were always working, always distracted. I felt alone. So you found someone who made you feel less alone, I said. And instead of talking to me about feeling neglected, you just replaced me. I didn't replace you, she insisted. Then what would you call it? I asked. She stood up abruptly, grabbing her laptop. I'm going to be late for work, she said. We can continue this tonight if you want to keep punishing me. I'm not punishing you, I said to her back as she walked away. I'm understanding you. The door closed behind her minutes later, and I sat alone in the kitchen with my coffee going cold. I pulled out my phone and made a call. Hey man, my business partner answered. Everything okay? Not really, I said, but I need a favor. Can we meet for lunch? Of course. Usual spot. Yeah, noon work. I'll be there. I spent the morning organizing documents. Financial records, account statements, titles, deeds. Everything in one place, clearly labeled. I wasn't sure yet what I was going to do with them, but having them ready felt important. Like preparing for a storm I could see building on the horizon. At lunch, I told my business partner everything. He listened without interrupting, his expression darkening as the story unfolded. What are you going to do? He asked when I finished. I don't know yet, I admitted. But I need to protect myself. Our business, especially. It's not marital property since we started it before the marriage, and you're an equal partner. But I want to make sure everything's documented clearly just in case. Just in case of what? He asked. Divorce. The word hung between us. I'd been avoiding thinking it, let alone saying it. Maybe, I said. I don't know. I need to see how this plays out. You know I've got your back either way, he said. Whatever you need. I know, I said. That's why I called you. That evening, she came home with takeout from my favorite restaurant. A peace offering. I thought we could have dinner together, she said, setting the bags on the counter. And actually talk, not just argue. Okay, I said, helping her unpack the containers. We sat at the table, and for a few minutes, we just ate in silence. I've been thinking all day, she finally said, about what you said this morning. And you're right about some of it. I waited. I did invest in Derek in ways I should have been investing in us, she continued. I let myself get caught up in the attention, the validation. It felt good to be noticed. I noticed you, I said. Not in the same way, she replied. You noticed when I was there, when I was convenient. But you didn't seek me out. You didn't prioritize time with me. I set down my fork. Is that how you saw it? I asked. Or is that how you justified it? She flinched. Both, maybe, she admitted. I'm not trying to excuse what I did. But I need you to understand that I was lonely. That I needed something you weren't giving me. And instead of telling me that, you found someone else to give it to you. I said. I'm not proud of it, she said. But yes. I leaned back in my chair. Here's what I can't get past, I said. You had 6 months to tell me you were unhappy. 6 months to say you felt lonely, that you needed more from me. But you didn't. You just started building a separate life with someone else and kept me in the dark. I was scared, she said. Of what? Of your reaction. Of making things worse. Of admitting that we had problems. So instead, you made sure we had bigger problems, I said. Is that the logic? No, she said, her voice breaking. There was no logic. I was just trying to survive feeling invisible. I wanted to feel sympathy. I wanted to reach across the table and take her hand and tell her we'd figure it out. But I couldn't, because the math didn't add up. If she felt invisible, she'd made me disappear entirely. I need you to answer something honestly, I said. She nodded. If you hadn't been seen with Derek, if no one at work had noticed, would you have ever told me? She was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, she finally whispered. And there it was. The truth that mattered more than all the others. She wouldn't have told me. She would have kept it going, kept me in the dark, kept living her double emotional life until it either burned out or escalated into something worse. The confession wasn't about honesty. It was about damage control. I think I need more than one night to process this, I said, standing up. What does that mean? She asked, alarm in her voice again. It means I'm going to stay in the guest room for a while, I said, until I figure out what I want. What you want, she repeated. You mean whether you want to stay married? That's part of it, I acknowledged. Her face went white. You're seriously considering divorce over this? You're seriously surprised that I am? I countered. Nothing happened, she said desperately. It was emotional, yes, but we never crossed the physical line. Doesn't that count for something? It counts for something, I agreed. But it doesn't erase 6 months of lies and secrecy. It doesn't fix the fact that you only told me because you got caught. And it doesn't answer the question of whether you're actually committed to this marriage or just afraid of being alone. I'm committed, she insisted. I want to fix this. You want to fix being caught, I corrected. That's not the same thing. I left her at the table and went back to the guest room. Over the next week, we existed in a strange limbo. We were polite, civil even. Good morning, good night, logistical discussions about bills and groceries. But the warmth was gone. The ease we'd once had was replaced by careful distance. She tried several times to initiate deeper conversations. I deflected them all. I need more time, I'd say, and she'd retreat, frustrated but unwilling to push harder. What she didn't know was that I was using that time strategically. I contacted a lawyer, not to file anything, but to understand my options. I reorganized our finances, creating clear separation between joint and individual accounts. I documented everything about the past 6 months that I could remember, inconsistencies in her stories, nights she'd come home late, times she'd been secretive with her phone. I wasn't building a case for court. I was building a foundation of clarity for myself. By the second week, she was getting desperate. We can't live like this forever, she said one night, cornering me in the kitchen. You're right, I agreed. So let's talk, she pressed. Really talk. I'll answer anything you want to know. Okay, I said, leaning against the counter. Did you ever tell Derek you loved him? She paled. No, she said. Absolutely not. Did he ever tell you he loved you? No. Did either of you ever discuss leaving your spouses? She hesitated. Not seriously, she said. What does that mean? I pressed. It means it came up in hypothetical conversations, she admitted. Like what-if scenarios. But we never made plans or anything. I nodded slowly, that information settling into the picture I was building. Did you kiss him? No. Did you want to? Another hesitation. Sometimes, she whispered. But I never did. Did he want to kiss you? I don't know. Maybe. We never talked about it explicitly. I pushed off from the counter. Thank you for answering, I said. That's it, she asked. That's all you wanted to know? For now, I said. What are you thinking? She asked desperately. I'm thinking about whether someone who entertains hypothetical scenarios about leaving their spouse while having what-if conversations with someone else is someone I want to be married to. That's not fair, she said for the 100th time. You're taking it out of context. Then give me context that makes it better, I challenged. She couldn't. That night, lying in the guest room, I realized something. The decision I'd made that first night, the quiet one I hadn't told her about, was solidifying into something irreversible. I didn't trust her anymore. And without trust, everything else was just theater. The love, the history, the shared life, all of it was built on a foundation that had cracked. Maybe it could be repaired. Maybe with therapy and time and genuine remorse, we could rebuild. But I didn't want to. That was the realization that hit me hardest. I didn't want to spend the next year or 2 or 5 fighting to get back something that she'd given away so easily. I didn't want to be the person who had to verify her phone logs and check her location and wonder every time she worked late whether she was really at the office. I didn't want to rebuild trust with someone who'd only confessed because she'd been caught. I wanted freedom from that weight. The next morning, I told her. We were both in the kitchen again, the scene of our original conversation. I've made a decision, I said. Her coffee mug paused halfway to her lips. I want a divorce, I continued. The mug slipped from her fingers, shattering on the tile floor. What? She breathed. I don't want to be married anymore, I said clearly. Not like this. Because of Derek? She asked, her voice rising. Because nothing even happened? Because you chose him over me, I said. Because you built a secret emotional life and only brought me in when you had no choice. Because even now, you're more concerned with defending yourself than understanding what you did. That's not true, she said, tears streaming now. I've apologized. I've tried to make this right. You've tried to make yourself feel better, I corrected. That's not the same thing. She sank into a chair, sobbing. Please don't do this, she begged. We can fix this. We can go to therapy. I'll do whatever you want. I don't want to fix it, I said, and the words felt like release. I want to move on. To what? She demanded. To being alone? To starting over? To being honest, I said. With myself and everyone else. This marriage stopped being real 6 months ago. I'm just acknowledging it now. She looked up at me, mascara streaking her cheeks. I never stopped loving you, she said. Maybe not, I replied. But you stopped choosing me. And I'm not interested in being someone's backup plan. I walked out of the kitchen, leaving her crying at the table surrounded by broken ceramic and spilled coffee. The next few weeks were mechanical. Lawyers, paperwork, division of assets. She fought at first, insisted we could still save things. But I was unmoved. The decision had been made that first night, and everything since had only confirmed it. We sold the house, split the accounts, divided the furniture and the memories and the pieces of a life we'd built together. She moved in with her sister. I got an apartment downtown, smaller but mine. My business partner helped me move, never once saying, I told you so, even though he'd seen this coming before I had. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into her at a coffee shop. She looked different, lighter somehow, despite the sadness in her eyes. Hey, she said quietly. Hey, I replied. How are you? Good, she said. Better, actually. Therapy's helping. I'm glad, I said, and I meant it. I'm sorry, she said suddenly. For everything. I handled it all wrong. Yeah, I agreed. You did. Do you think we ever could have made it work? She asked. If I told you earlier, if I'd been honest from the start? I considered the question. Maybe, I said finally. But we'll never know. And I'm okay with that. She nodded, tears welling up again. I hope you find what you're looking for, she said. I hope you do too, I replied. We parted ways outside the coffee shop, going in opposite directions. And for the first time in months, I felt completely certain I'd made the right choice. Not because she was a bad person, not because what she'd done was unforgivable, but because the moment she'd asked me to listen without interrupting, I'd realized something crucial. I deserved someone who wouldn't have secrets to confess in the first place. Someone who would choose me first, not as a backup when their other option disappeared. Someone whose love didn't come with footnotes and qualifications. That night in the kitchen, when she'd been preparing for an argument and I'd been making a quiet decision, I'd given her exactly what she'd asked for. I'd listened. I'd let her talk. And in doing so, I'd heard everything she didn't say just as clearly as what she did. The apology that came too late. The honesty that only appeared under pressure. The love that wasn't enough to choose me when it mattered. And my quiet decision that night, the one I'd never explained until it was too late for her to change it, had been simple. I was done accepting less than I deserved. The control she'd thought she still had, the ability to confess and be forgiven and move forward, unraveled slowly as she realized I wasn't fighting for her. I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurt. I was just done. And sometimes, that's the most powerful choice of all. Not the dramatic exit or the vindictive revenge. Just the quiet certainty that you deserve better, followed by the discipline to actually walk away. I rebuilt my life piece by piece. The apartment became a home. The business flourished without the distraction of a failing marriage. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected, threw myself into hobbies I'd abandoned, rediscovered parts of myself that had gotten lost in trying to save something that was already broken. And eventually, I stopped thinking about her every day, then every week, then at all, except when something randomly triggered a memory. The coffee shop encounter faded into the background of my new life, just another moment in a past that no longer defined me. People ask sometimes if I regret it, if I wish I'd tried harder, fought more, given her another chance. The answer is always no, because that night when she stood in our kitchen and asked me to listen, I did more than that. I heard the truth she wasn't saying, and I chose myself instead. That choice, quiet and unremarkable in the moment, became the foundation of everything that came after. A life built on honesty instead of half-truths, freedom instead of control, self-respect instead of settling. And in the end, that was worth more than any amount of history or comfort or fear of starting over. The marriage ended not with drama or fireworks, but with a simple, irreversible decision made in silence while she prepared her defense. And that made all the difference.